Hello and welcome to Aging Matters, a program featuring individuals who talk about aging-related issues of interest to older adults and their families. I'm Cheryl Beversdorf, your host. Members of every generation tend to see and judge the world, people, and events in their own way. Often, the stereotypes that arise can be harmful because they generate beliefs based on false assumptions. Today, I have 4 guests. 2 older adults, Carmen Melendez and Larry Padberg, and 2 Marymount University students, Jenna Nicely and Devon Douglas. Each of them will give their perspectives about how they live their own lives and develop attitudes, and how they view characteristics and lifestyles of other generations. They will also show how stereotypes about older adults and young persons can be reversed. Later in the program, you will see a video called What is Old, which shows how opinions about being old are often viewed and how they can be changed. So welcome Carmen, Larry, Jenna, and Devon, and thank you for being here today.
How are you?
How are you?
Pleasure to be here.
Okay, so let's get started with you, Jenna. What do you do to maintain a healthy lifestyle as a college student?
I think the most important thing is creating a good balance for yourself. So for example, having things that grow you in the educational field, like for example, I'm a librarian assistant, I'm president of the Health Sciences Club, and I regularly do research with the engineering program at Marymount. But I also make time for things that I enjoy, like cooking and reading and being in a relationship and things that are good for my health and mentally and physically.
Okay, and Carmen, what do you do to maintain a healthy lifestyle as an older adult?
Well, I love eating healthy. I do exercise. I'm also a caregiver, so I take care of my mother, so I get to eat healthy for both of us. And I also enjoy walking, and I have a dog, so I have to walk in at least 2 times a day. So that one thing that keeps me healthy, and I love exercising.
So Larry, so what is one thing that you enjoyed when you were younger that you wish you could experience in your older adulthood now?
I don't really think there's anything that I have difficulty enjoying now. There's not a lot of difference. The difference is in terms of maybe the speed, the energy at which I'm able to do things. But sports that I did as a young person, I still do, and so many different activities, I'm able to keep them up. The difference, though, is, like I say, maybe the intensity of what you're able to do. But it isn't as if there's something missing that I used to do that I wish I could still do. I'm still doing it.
And talk a little bit more about those activities. What do you do on a regular basis?
As an example, I've probably been a regular runner for about 40 years or so.
Okay.
My speed has gone down significantly, but I still get out and run the same distance and still energetically, you know. And we go to the gym and work out with weights and things like that. Again, maybe you put a little less weight on the bar. But I'm still able to do those things. And yard work and other kinds of things that you stay busy with.
Okay. So Devon, what advice would you give to yourself when you're older?
So the advice that I would give to my oldest self is basically just to continue to do the things that I love to do on a daily basis, such as like going to the gym, going out to eat. Because one thing about me, I love food, so like I like going out to eat. Partying with friends on like a Saturday night. Like there's like this stereotype that as you get older, you no longer do the stuff that you normally do when you were young. Like the stereotype is that like older people, they stay in the house watching TV in bed by 8 p.m. and that's just something that I'm not used to. So I just want to continue to do the stuff that I like to do on a daily basis.
All right. Well, Carmen, what advice would you give to your younger self now that you are an older adult? What do you think about and maybe sort of reflect on of when you were younger and what you would tell yourself?
Don't ever give up your essence. Always fight for your dreams. And if you were raised with strong values, always keep them and don't ever give that up. But the most important thing, don't ever give up your essence. That's very important. That has always been very important to me.
talk a little bit more about that. What does that mean? What are there certain activities that you did when you were younger that you...
I was raised by, my parents got divorced when I was 5 years old, so I was raised by my mother and my grandmother. So two very strong women that taught me very strong values, and who taught me that no matter what happened out there, always fight for what you want in life, but always keep your essence.
All right. All right. Well, Jenna, let's get back to you here.
All right.
What do older adults tell you that you do not expect or believe?
I think one thing that I have seen, some with myself and mostly with people that I know, is a lot of older adults say that their dreams are not realistic, or what they choose to do is with their future lives are not realistic. So I have friends that want to go into entrepreneurship or the arts or social media, but I think especially now in the generation that we're in, more than ever, you can not only make those connections, but actually follow through on those things a lot easier and get those opportunities easier.
And how did you come up with that idea? Was there some older adult that you're close to that you have thought this about?
I remember one of my friends, he wanted to go into music a lot, and that was what he wanted to do. And he was often told that that was not possible, and now he is going off to perform in concerts. And I know when I was younger, I owned a business to raise money for cancer research. And being so young and doing that, because I was about 12 or 13 when I started that, it would be a lot harder for me to continue that, or at least I was told to continue that as I got older.
Okay. All right. All right, Larry. Do you believe that the world is continuously getting worse, and that back in your day, things were better? What would you tell us?
I don't know that I would say back in my day, but throughout my life, I had a sense of things continually getting better. You think of, at this age, having gone through civil rights, women's movement, the emergence of democracies around the world, the end of the Soviet Union. So I've always been very optimistic about what comes next. But I have to say that in recent years, I'm very concerned about changes in our political environment and what I view as some very strong concerns about where we're going politically and even around the world, how many autocratic, dictatorial kind of governments are developing. So I won't say that back in the day it was better than now, but it's been a long, gradual improvement, I felt, until just recently.
Would you also be concerned about the separation of people's viewpoints too?
Yes, yeah, that polarization, that division. And we have some tremendous things that we need to address in terms of democracy, the world, the environment, and the things that we're facing there. So it's a difficult time to be so divided and have such differences of opinion and difficulty talking to one another.
All right. Devon, what are the most difficult and most rewarding things about being in college?
Well, I'm going to say the first difficult thing about being in college is the amount of work that you have to do. So one thing that when I first started my graduate program, I was having a little bit of trouble with was time management. So I do work, and I am a full-time student. There was some days where an assignment was due at 11:59 p.m., and I didn't start doing the assignment till 8 p.m. So it's just but as time went on, I realized that hey, if I do a little bit of this assignment each day, it's gonna add up until eventually I can get the assignment done on time. I want to say the most rewarding thing is I graduated in December, so when I get to the end, that's gonna make me really happy. So just when you get to the end, you realize that all the work that you put in was really worth it, and you have your degree, and you can get on with your career.
We have one last question before we take a look at that video, and I'm going to ask Jenna, what can your generation learn from older adults?
I think definitely grounding. I know, especially with this generation and being so ingrained, although it is a social media is a good thing. It also makes it harder for us to tell the difference between what is real and what is not, and to work on our communication and connection skills, because it is a lot harder to do that over Zoom than in real life. And having to do that, especially with the recent COVID pandemic, we haven't been able to work on those skills, and a lot of that has been lost. So I feel like that's something we can definitely learn from the older generations.
And is this particularly when you talk about the older adults that are you talking about like people at school or relatives or both in terms of older adults?
I think both. I think I definitely see this a lot, like with my friends, it is a lot harder for them to socialize and get back into the routine of talking to people and meeting with people in person. Whereas, for example, with my mother, she works in a hospital, she's around people all the time. The pandemic didn't really affect her in that way to where she lost a lot of those skills.
Okay. Well, to learn more about generational stereotypes, we're going to watch a video entitled, "What is Old?" The video features millennials who show us what old really looks like. So let's watch.
Hey, how's it going? You can stand right there, that's Remark. How you doing?
I'm great, how are you?
Great.
Awesome.
Just tell us your first name and your age.
My real age?
My name is Paolo. I'm 25 years old.
My name is Daniela, and I'm 19.
24. 35.
31. 33.
I'm 26 years old.
What age do you consider to be old?
Late 40s?
Maybe 50.
I feel like 30 is a new 20, so I'd say like 40 is old.
I'd probably say 50s.
I'd like you to show me how an old person would cross the street. Show me how an old person would send a text message. How might an old person do a push-up? What about jumping jacks? Okay, hang on. There's someone I want you to meet.
Hello, I'm Birch. I'm 66.
Hi, I'm Daphne, and I'm 68.
I'm Dee, and I'm 55.
George Fassbinder, 75.
My name's Parvati. I'm 70.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
We're gonna give you about 2 minutes to teach each other something that you are good at.
I can teach you a jump that I do.
Okay, please.
Both of your legs go up, and your arm goes up, and your left arm goes like to the side. Ready?
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Lift 1, 2, 3. And bring it to your heart. And bring it to your heart. Add the head in. Yeah.
I'm gonna try to get your balance.
And raise up. Now you can bring your legs and your feet up. It's hard, right?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. So when you come out of a turn, either way, you go back to that basics.
Over. Now forward. Over. Yeah.
Square it like this, and give me a hook. Hook. Jab, cross, hook, and then we'll go like this, alright?
1, 2, 3.
Now, what age might you consider to be old?
Probably 80 or 90. He could just do everything that I told him to do. An age that I would consider to be old now might be 100.
Do you remember what you said?
Yeah, I said in the 50s I thought that would be old. But when I thought about it, like...
Wait a minute.
I'm sorry.
How can I do it? It really changed my thinking of what old is. You've taught me something today. Clearly, there's no way she's old, you know?
Now I know from today, hey, I don't look at age.
At my age, I feel like I did when I was in my 20s.
There's so many things that I still want to do. There's so many things that I can do. As long as I'm growing, and learning that age doesn't matter.
When people start stopping, that's when they start getting old.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks, Daphne.
It was great meeting you.
How long have you been doing this? Is this a new skill?
40 years.
I hope the video, What is Old, provides a new perspective about who and what is considered old and how that can be changed. So let's have some more questions here. I wanted to ask Carmen, in your view, how are morals different today than they were when you were younger? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. I think that if the values of an individual are based on true love, respect, honesty, I don't see a difference between the morals of today than those that when I was being raised. However, if an individual, because I share what Larry had said before, that I'm very concerned about what's going on not only here but around the world. I'm concerned about the democracy here and also around the world. I'm concerned about how we're treating each other. There's no respect. There's no respect for our brothers and sisters. I'm concerned about problems about racism. I'm concerned about values in general. So that we didn't have when I was growing up. So that I never heard when I was studying, when I was doing my master's up in Connecticut. And there were problems with racism up in Connecticut. So I didn't face that when I was studying my undergraduate in Dijon, France, or at the University of Puerto Rico. So I'm very concerned about that. So I'm very grateful to both my mom and my grandmother. So when the values or the foundation of an individual are shaky, that's when the morals that's when there's a problem with the moral. But there's no difference about the morals of today or when I was growing up. So that's probably the problem that I see. So I do pray a lot that things will change, but I'm very concerned about my country and about what's going on around the world.
Okay. Larry, what are the most difficult and most rewarding things about growing older?
Well, one of the things about growing older, and some of this is just personal situation, but having retired several years ago, not having that kind of the pressure of work and where are you going in career and those kinds of things, and having the opportunity to do things that you enjoy, but also time for volunteer work. I've got about 5 different groups that I volunteer with in one way or another. And so there's a liveliness to life, an opportunity to do new things. So that's one of the great advantages of being older. I have to admit some of that is within the context of as you remain healthy and you're able to do things, but it's really a wonderful time of life. When you say the difficulties of growing older, there is a reality of knowing that aging is occurring, that things can happen health-wise, that this isn't going to go on forever, and thinking about that in terms of just your personal values and what you're hoping for and what your spiritual perspective is. But there's a little bit of that nagging thought of where we are in the long term, but older adulthood is really a very joyful time of life.
All right. So, Carmen, I'm going to get back to you about the whole area of technology. Mm-hmm. I think that really makes a difference in terms of older adults and younger adults. And talk to us about how you feel about the use of technology with your generation. We'll start there, and then I'll ask another question. But is there a lot of...
Well, when I was growing up, we didn't have computers, we didn't have cell phones, so it was quite a challenge. And also, I have to admit that when I was when the computers first, they first came into my life, so I had some challenges since God I had my son. But with technology, I rely a lot on him. So because I didn't have a child until I was in my late 30s, middle 30s, 35 years old when I had my son. And I relied on him for everything. When I had a problem, I come, Stefan, you gotta fix this, you gotta fix that. So my son, when he started college and he left Virginia, he went to New York. So, oh my God, Stefan left, what do I do? So, and first year he was in New York, so I was able to call him, and he will, over the phone, he will tell me what happened. Second year, he went to Shanghai. So I was totally lost in the world. And I used to call him long distance to Shanghai to tell me, and he said, Mother, you're going to have to figure it out. So, but not only with the computer, with everything that had to do with technology, I used to rely on him. So I promised myself that, from that day, in particular, that I had a real problem with my computer, I was going to learn how to be technique savvy, and I became technology savvy that particular day on. And so I'm having a lot of fun with computers and with technology in general. So so I had to force myself to. So I think they're very useful. They're wonderful. I love them. And
so we're going to get your perspective, Devon. Why do you think older adults seem less adaptable to change and less accepting of new changes as they grow older? Technology, we just already heard about that, maybe about social standards and youth in general. What's your viewpoint about this?
A lot of older adults, they're not used to like social media. They didn't have like a Twitter, a Facebook, or Instagram during their time when they was young. So when they get on these social media platforms, they're kind of just learning how to use them. They're just like babies in the instance, like you're out there and you just learn how to do stuff. So I want to say that the second part to that question is about youth. When you get older, sometimes people don't change their ideals about certain things, and unfortunately, they go to the very end believing certain things. So it's really like important that the youth, they still like understand that like, hey, this older adult in my life is stuck in their ways. But how about I try to bring a new perspective to them to try to change their minds?
Okay. And social standards, any comments you want to make about that?
Social standards. As regards to like social standards, I do believe we are in a technological era. So I feel like young people nowadays, including myself, we meet people mostly online on the social media platforms that I mentioned. But I know back in the day it was completely different. Like you saw someone sitting at the cafe, you may like walk up to them, like start a conversation. But I feel like in my generation, we really don't talk to people who we don't necessarily know in public. We rather just more so talk to them on social media. And I believe a reason for that is because like it has less of a personal feel, because like they can't see you and you can't see them. They only see like your profile or your pictures online. So that's why I may feel like people are more comfortable talking to other people online.
Larry, I want to get back to you here. Do you believe you are misunderstood or stigmatized as an older adult? And if so, how?
Well, the little film that we saw, I'm sure there's lots of times when I do something and people look at me and think, oh, that old man. but generally in my interactions with people that I know, so in volunteer situations, within my family, within just the variety of people that you meet, I don't feel that I'm stigmatized. I feel I'm responded to respectfully and hopefully respond back respectfully. So even though you hear stories about and you know that there are people out there who question older adults in different ways, it isn't something that I feel like I've experienced.
Devon, another question. Do you believe that you are misunderstood or stigmatized as a college student? And if so, how?
There is some stigma placed on college students that like, hey, they're there to like party, to have fun, not there to do what they're supposed to do, which is like get an education. And I did see that myself when I was an undergrad, but I do believe the majority of people are there to like better themselves professionally, like network and get their degree. So I don't necessarily believe in that stereotype. But I did do my fair share of partying when I was in undergrad. You gotta have a little fun, right?
Okay.
But in grad school, I do believe there is a higher expectation placed on you. Like I am working, so like I would say it's a little bit hard to juggle both of them and live up to that expectation. But I think as long as you're like working hard, you know what I mean, turning your work on time, just being the best student that you can be at that exact moment, you should be all right.
So the final question is yours, Jenna.
All
And
right.
help us understand how to help us reverse stereotypes about older adults. Again, we looked at that video earlier of frail and feeble, dependent. What do you see that can be done to show that this population's contributions are greater than what is seen or expected? What would you tell us?
I think that there are two avenues to change your perspective of how we view older adults. So looking at what they have done and what they are currently doing. So as far as what they have done, I think is thinking about what that generation has done in their lives. So a lot of the things that we use every day, like our computers, our smartphones, things that we are so dependent on is based on their ideas and their hard work and their research and everything that we will continue to build upon in the future. It's all based on their work. So that kind of puts in the perspective of we're more so dependent on them than they are of us. And I think another way to look at it too is referencing the earlier question that you had asked Larry, of looking at the things that they are going through now. So diseases such as cancer or Alzheimer's, or going through the grieving process, things that we would never even be able to imagine. And them being able to go through it so strongly, especially with the adversity of their age, really shows their resilience.
And do you think too that spending more time with older adults or doing what we're doing here makes a difference?
Yeah, I definitely think so, especially like having situations like this where we have actual conversations with older adults and getting their perspective on it, and then getting our perspective. I think having a genuine conversation is very important and is where we can learn the most.
I want to thank our older adult guests, Carmen Melendez and Larry Padberg, and Marymount University students Jenna Nicely and Devon Douglas for joining me today. This program is broadcast Sundays at 5:30 p.m. and Wednesdays at 6 p.m. on Comcast Channel 69 or Verizon Channel 38 in Arlington, Virginia, and streaming live at those times on arlingtonmedia.org. Aging Matters is also on the radio. The program is broadcast every Tuesday at 2 p.m. and Friday at 2 p.m. on WERA Arlington 96.7 FM. Be sure to check out the Aging Matters website, agingmattersonline.com, for more information about all of our radio programs and TV episodes. So thank you for watching Aging Matters TV show today, and please join me again for the next show. And until then, remember, age is just a number, not a label.